Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, cognitive subconscious patterns, audio, visual, and kinesthetic. Some individuals process the world primarily through auditory means, language, inner dialogue, tone, and rhythm. Others absorb experience visually, through symbols, patterns, and images. Still others are kinesthetic, learning through movement, emotional resonance, or embodied memory. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, structure, time, and co-ruled by Ahirbudhnya, the serpent of the deep, hidden awareness, leans most strongly toward kinesthetic and auditory digital processing. These natives are naturally introspective, contemplative, and attuned to what feels true on a deep, often somatic level. Their subconscious is shaped by sensation, intuition, and a need to make sense of life through internal logic and quiet integration. However, under certain planetary influences, they can access visual and auditory strengths as well. The dominant mode emerges most clearly through placements in the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 10th houses, zones of perception, expression, and externalization. If Saturn is in the 1st, 3rd, or 10th house, the processing style is auditory digital, cautious, analytic, and structured. These individuals often filter life through systems, order, or philosophical frameworks. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn adds weight to every impression. They question meaning, logic, and moral consequence. If Saturn is in the 10th, this internal patterning is made visible. They are seen as serious, responsible communicators who deliver insight with quiet authority and methodical pace. If Moon is in the 4th or 5th house, the processing becomes deeply kinesthetic, emotional, intuitive, and sensation-based. These natives absorb life through feeling, memory, and energy. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Moon draws them inward. They may seem still on the surface, yet they are emotionally saturated beneath. If Moon is in the 10th, they carry this sensitivity into the world. They read the emotional undercurrents of public roles and often serve as calm, steady emotional anchors for others. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, auditory processing activates. These individuals organize information through dialogue, verbal reasoning, and linguistic logic. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury adds rhythm and mental fluency. They may think in philosophical phrases or structure emotion into language. If Mercury is in the 10th, they may be educators, speakers, or reflective writers, those who translate inner depth into external understanding. If Venus is in the 5th or 10th house, visual processing gently surfaces, especially around beauty, art, or relational pattern. These natives are drawn to symbolic harmony, sacred geometry, or ritual aesthetics. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Venus infuses vision with reverence. They may visualize abstract truths as beauty or light. If Venus is in the 10th, this manifests publicly. They may be designers of spiritual or emotional experiences, therapists, healers, or artists whose work soothes and sanctifies. If Ketu is in the 1st or 5th house, the processing becomes abstract, symbolic, and nonlinear. These natives bypass typical cognitive channels, absorbing through archetype, karma, or direct intuitive knowing. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Ketu enhances their mysticism. They may not know how they know, but their awareness runs deep. If Ketu is in the 10th, they may function in roles that defy logic, energy workers, mystics, or spiritual guides whose depth is felt more than explained. Uttara Bhadrapada's mind is like a sacred well, quiet on the surface, yet infinitely deep. These natives absorb life through resonance, inner stillness, and the gravity of meaning. Their growth lies in learning how to articulate the ineffable, how to give language or form to what they feel so deeply. When balanced, they become vessels of timeless wisdom, processing life not for speed or spectacle, but for truth, integration, and soul-level transformation. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, motivation direction, towards versus away from. Some individuals move toward growth, meaning, or transformation, driven by a vision of what they hope to experience or become. Others are moved by the desire to avoid pain, prevent disorder, or protect what is sacred, operating from a space of caution, reflection, or spiritual gravity. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, time, endurance, responsibility, and co-ruled by Ahirbudhnya, the serpent of the deep, hidden wisdom, leans naturally toward an away-from motivation style. These natives are often driven by what they feel they must guard against: chaos, emotional overwhelm, spiritual disconnection, or karmic burden. They act not out of desire for gain, but to preserve meaning, uphold inner order, or fulfill an unseen obligation. Yet when they awaken to purpose beyond fear, when clarity replaces heaviness, they can shift into towards action, guided by vision, service, and soul-deep intent. The balance between vision and avoidance often plays out through placements in the first, sixth, and 10th houses, where responsibility, timing, and path emerge. If Saturn is in the first or sixth house, the motivation is clearly away from. These individuals are often propelled by a sense of duty, karmic inheritance, or a deep aversion to failure and chaos. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn carries weight. They move carefully, sacrificing ease for discipline. If Saturn is in the 10th, their public image reflects this gravity. They may become pillars of strength or restraint, building legacy through quiet persistence, often more to avoid collapse than to chase recognition. If Moon is in the 4th or 6th house, the motivation is emotionally away from. These individuals often act to avoid emotional disturbance, to protect what feels safe or sacred. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Moon softens Saturn's austerity with feeling, but also adds vulnerability. If Moon is in the 10th, they are emotionally tethered to duty. They may serve or lead in order to maintain emotional peace in the collective, often sensing what must be done to prevent subtle breakdowns in harmony. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the motivation begins to shift toward. These natives act from principle, spiritual faith, or the desire to expand into truth. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter brings light into Saturn's cave, replacing dread with wisdom. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they are seen as teachers, guides, or ethical leaders, motivated by the desire to share truth, elevate others, and build meaningful structures that outlast them. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the motivation becomes intensely toward, though often erratic or extreme. These individuals are pulled toward transformation, power, or mastery. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Rahu's fire agitates Saturn's stillness. They may break taboos, chase mystical knowledge, or throw themselves into service with obsessive urgency. If Rahu is in the 10th, this plays out publicly. They may rise through unusual paths, driven by the need to become something more, even if they don't yet know what that is. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the motivation leans toward, especially through systems, ideas, or spiritual logic. These individuals may be motivated by clarity, communication, or intellectual mastery. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury organizes what Saturn contemplates. They seek truth through structured understanding. If Mercury is in the 10th, they may become thought leaders, advisors, or scholars, driven by the desire to make complexity digestible and meaningful. Uttara Bhadrapada's core motivation is to preserve what is sacred, fulfill what is karmic, and bring order to what is unseen. They are not quick to act, but when they do, it's often because something must be done. Their growth lies in learning that not all movement must be born of pressure, that sacred work can be inspired, not just required. When they move from vision rather than fear, they become wise custodians of spiritual legacy, steadily walking the bridge between the suffering they've known and the wisdom they're here to offer. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, attention direction, self or others. Some people navigate life with a strong internal compass, tracking their thoughts, feelings, and patterns from within. Others are naturally attuned to the external field, picking up on the moods, needs, and expectations of those around them. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, structure, karma, and co-ruled by Ahirbudhnya, the deep oceanic serpent symbolizing subconscious depth, leans predominantly toward a self-oriented attention style. These natives are inwardly focused, reflective, and often absorbed in their own emotional or spiritual process. Their awareness runs deep rather than wide. They track time, meaning, and experience from an internal locus that is shaped by memory, karma, and contemplation. Yet when placed in roles of responsibility or service, they can extend their awareness outward, especially when the pain, confusion, or needs of others mirror their own. Planetary placements in the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses help determine whether their attention stays within or reaches out to include the world. If Saturn is in the 1st or 4th house, attention is deeply self-directed. These individuals are highly aware of their internal state, emotional patterns, and personal karma. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn here fosters introspection. They may seem quiet or reserved, but they are intensely tuned in to their own limitations and rhythms. If Saturn is in the 10th, this self-awareness becomes structured. They measure their progress against their own ethical code, often appearing serious or stoic in public because they are constantly tracking their sense of personal responsibility. If Moon is in the 4th house, attention flows inward, especially emotionally. These individuals need solitude to process and often prioritize their emotional ecosystem over external demands. In Uttara Bhadrapada, this creates an interior sanctum. They serve others best when they've tended their own depths first. If Moon is in the 7th, attention tilts to become more responsive to others' needs, but may risk losing track of their own emotional cycles if too entangled in relational tides. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the attention becomes more others-oriented, especially through communication, coordination, or intellectual exchange. These individuals are attuned to how ideas are received and may adjust themselves to facilitate understanding. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury introduces soft outreach. They bring wisdom to the world gently, often serving as translators of complex feelings into shared insight. If Mercury is in the 10th, they may be seen as advisors or mediators, professionals whose attentiveness to others reflects deep internal clarity. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the attention is self-focused, but in a philosophical or spiritual way. These natives measure themselves against spiritual principles, seeking to align with Dharma rather than external validation. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter here provides quiet confidence. They don't seek approval, but inner coherence. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they carry this internal compass into the public sphere. They serve others by embodying integrity, often becoming mentors or guides who give without needing recognition. If Rahu is in the 1st house, attention can become hyper-focused on the self, driven by a restless need to evolve, stand out, or transcend personal limitation. In Uttara Bhadrapada, this can create a sense of spiritual urgency. They may be obsessed with their own transformation. If Rahu is in the 7th, the attention flips, becoming highly others-focused, sometimes in destabilizing ways. These individuals may project their inner voids into relationships, seeking wholeness through partnership or external affirmation. Uttara Bhadrapada's default mode is to look inward, feeling, evaluating, and refining themselves over time. Yet their quietude does not mean detachment. When called, they bring extraordinary presence to others, especially those who are also navigating emotional or existential depth. Their growth lies in balancing the sanctity of inner life with the reality of human connection, learning to emerge from the cave without losing what was gained inside it. When balanced, they become serene anchors, present to others, yet rooted in the stillness of the self. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, understanding chunk size, big or little. Some individuals understand life through expansive vision, absorbing the big picture, spiritual themes, or karmic arcs before diving into detail. Others process through specifics, breaking things down step by step to grasp meaning through pattern and repetition. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, structure, karma, time, and co-ruled by Ahirbudhnya, symbol of hidden wisdom and oceanic depth, leans strongly toward a big chunk understanding style. These natives are wired to think symbolically and philosophically. They process information in terms of essence, legacy, or cosmic order. Yet, due to Saturn's exacting nature, they also possess the capacity to shift into little chunk processing, especially when navigating systems of service, ritual, or responsibility. Whether they dwell in abstraction or detail depends on planetary placements, especially in the 1st, 3rd, 5th, or 10th houses, where perception, learning, and duty converge. If Saturn is in the 1st or 9th house, the understanding style is big chunk and contemplative. These individuals process life slowly but with profound depth, seeking to understand life's architecture rather than its mechanics. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn here carries a karmic gravity. They grasp meaning through reflection, endurance, and long-range insight. If Saturn is in the 10th, this big picture processing translates into public roles. They are seen as steady thinkers and builders of legacy, often more concerned with why something matters than how it works in the moment. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, The preference is powerfully big chunk, driven by spiritual understanding, symbolic logic, and ethical context. These individuals absorb universal patterns and draw meaning from belief systems, archetypes, and dharmic truths. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter softens Saturn's restraint. They may grasp vast concepts intuitively, processing what feels true before what is proven. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they become visionary professionals, teachers, healers, or mentors who guide others through broad frameworks rather than technical precision. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the native can shift into little chunk processing, especially for practical or communicative tasks. These individuals excel at breaking down complexity into manageable parts, organizing language, and clarifying spiritual ideas. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury adds mental precision. They may be drawn to spiritual administration, translation of esoteric knowledge, or rituals of learning. If Mercury is in the 10th, this detailed awareness becomes visible. They are known for clarity, method, and careful articulation of nuanced truths. If Moon is in the 4th or 5th house, the emotional understanding tends toward little chunk, but with strong intuition. These natives process through repetition, memory, and emotional resonance. They revisit and reflect, feeling their way toward comprehension. In Uttara Bhadrapada, this style runs deep. They may understand life through relational patterns, family legacy, or soul memory. If Moon is in the 10th, this emotional intelligence becomes public. They are seen as wise empaths, often guiding others through felt understanding rather than intellectual analysis. If Ketu is in the 1st or 5th house, the understanding becomes nonlinear, abstract, and symbolic. These natives absorb meaning in flashes, through intuition, dreams, or karmic recall. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Ketu dissolves structure. They may bypass steps entirely, understanding what matters without knowing why. If Ketu is in the 10th, this style shapes their public path. They may be seen as mystics, seers, or subtle guides, capable of holding truths that defy rational explanation. Uttara Bhadrapada's default is contemplative, integrative, and slow, but never shallow. They absorb the why before the how, trusting that detail will follow if the principle is sound. Their challenge is to translate their vast internal understanding into practical terms, so that what is true in the soul can become real in the world. When they balance abstraction with structure, they become vessels of deep knowing, offering insight that's both timeless and timely, rooted in stillness yet capable of practical healing. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, frame of reference, internal or external. Some individuals move through life anchored in an internal frame of reference, guided by inner knowing, emotional memory, or spiritual alignment. Others operate with an external frame, seeking feedback, validation, or structure from the outside world. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, karmic endurance, introspection, and co-ruled by Ahirbudhnya, serpent of the deep, symbolizing hidden wisdom, leans strongly toward an internal frame of reference. These natives are inward-focused, processing experience slowly and privately before responding. They rely on inner timing, intuition, and an invisible sense of karmic appropriateness to guide their actions. However, their capacity for deep service and social responsibility means they can become momentarily pulled toward external feedback, especially when duty, legacy, or collective harmony is involved. The tension between personal truth and public role often shows through placements in the 4th, 7th, and 10th houses. If Saturn is in the 1st, 4th, or 10th house, the internal referencing is especially strong. These individuals track time, consequence, and obligation from within, rarely acting impulsively. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn reinforces silent integrity. They follow their conscience, often appearing restrained but deeply principled. If Saturn is in the 10th, they are seen as composed professionals, those who act based on internal codes rather than external trends, often carrying invisible burdens with grace. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, the reference point may tilt outward, especially emotionally. These individuals track how others feel and may base decisions on relational harmony or emotional cues. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Moon adds subtle sensitivity. They may second-guess their inner voice when surrounded by emotional pressure. If Moon is in the 10th, this responsiveness shows in public life. They often adapt to preserve peace or minimize conflict, sometimes at the cost of personal clarity. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the frame becomes more externally fluid. These individuals learn through dialogue, feedback, and observed patterns. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury provides mental adaptability. They listen, but often return inward before forming conclusions. If in the 10th, they are seen as thoughtful communicators who process the world logically, but must guard against drifting from their deeper emotional or spiritual compass in the face of public demand. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the internal reference is principled and spiritual. These individuals assess life based on their inner belief system or philosophical framework. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter expands Saturn's inner landscape. They operate from faith, not approval. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they are seen as steady, moral professionals, those who follow Dharma even when it diverges from popular opinion. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the reference may start externally, focused on visibility, status, or transformation. These individuals may initially seek definition through success or admiration. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Rahu adds urgency. They may act out of desire to become, rather than to be. If Rahu is in the 10th, this can result in public ambition that masks inner uncertainty. They must learn to return to their internal wisdom rather than chase validation. Uttara Bhadrapada's true compass lies deep within, anchored not in the noise of the world, but in the quiet rhythm of soul memory and karmic resonance. These natives evolve through stillness, trust, and surrender to a process that few can see. Their growth comes from knowing that their inner truth is valid, even when unspoken, and learning when to hold that truth close and when to let it shape the world around them. When aligned, they become timeless stewards of depth, led from within, moved by purpose, and untouched by superficial tides. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, action preference, proactive or reactive. Some individuals initiate change, acting proactively to shape events and move toward their goals. Others wait, responding to circumstances, emotional states, or subtle cues before taking action. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, deliberation, discipline, timing, and associated with Ahirbudhnya, the serpent of the deep, symbolic of hidden power and still waters, exhibits a distinctly reactive action style. These natives move slowly, often pausing to observe, reflect, or sense the right moment before acting. Their motivation is rarely impulsive. Instead, it emerges from spiritual readiness, emotional gravity, or karmic necessity. Yet when deeply aligned, they can act with profound conviction and quiet power. Their response style is shaped by planetary placements in the 1st, 4th, 6th, and 10th houses, zones of identity, inner drive, service, and visibility. If Saturn is in the 1st or 6th house, the action preference remains reactive and measured. These individuals assess risks, obligations, and timing before making a move. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn here adds spiritual maturity. They rarely act without a reason rooted in duty or principle. If Saturn is in the 10th, their public actions are seen as slow but steady. They may be leaders who act during crisis or transition, bringing structure after breakdown. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, the action style is emotionally reactive. These natives respond based on how they feel, often waiting for emotional alignment before engaging. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Moon adds a tidal rhythm. They are intuitive responders who act when something internally clicks. If Moon is in the 10th, they may appear calm or reserved publicly, but their timing is attuned to collective feeling or ancestral undercurrents. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the action style becomes more proactive, but with purpose. These individuals are guided by inner beliefs and often take action when it aligns with Dharma or ethical truth. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter softens Saturn's restraint. They may initiate spiritual service, teaching, or transformation. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they are seen as principled actors, leaders who move when they believe the moment serves a higher vision. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, action becomes more strategic and situational. These natives act when they have clarity, information, or a plan. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury introduces responsiveness to patterns. They may not rush, but they adapt quickly when the logic becomes clear. If Mercury is in the 10th, they may appear mentally agile. quietly influencing outcomes through communication, timing, and perception. If Rahu is in the first or 10th house, the action style can become hyper-proactive, often charged with intensity or urgency. These individuals may take bold, sometimes disruptive action, seeking transformation or elevation. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Rahu pushes against Saturn's caution. They may act before grounding, chasing change or status. If Rahu is in the 10th, they are visible for their intensity, rising quickly but needing inner anchoring to sustain momentum. Uttara Bhadrapada's action preference is rooted in stillness. These natives do not rush. They wait, listen, and sense what the moment requires. Their power lies in depth, not speed. When reactive, they respond with wisdom that others overlook. When proactive, they move like ancient tides, slow, unstoppable, and full of karmic weight. Their evolution comes from trusting that timing is sacred and knowing that when they act from inner truth, their impact is lasting, necessary, and quietly transformative. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, operational style, options versus procedures. Some individuals thrive in environments where freedom and adaptability guide their actions, preferring an options-based style that values exploration and intuitive movement. Others operate best with defined steps, predictable rhythms, and ritualized order, leaning toward a procedures-based approach. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, discipline, structure, restraint, and linked to Ahirbudhnya, the deep serpent of cosmic order and stillness, leans strongly toward a procedures-based operational style. These natives are ritualistic by nature. They find peace in repetition, alignment in structure, and meaning in the long arc of karmic systems. Yet when inspired by spiritual insight or ethical clarity, they can momentarily shift into options mode, especially when adapting wisdom to real-world complexity. Whether they maintain strict rhythms or allow flexibility is shaped by planetary placements in the 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses, where systems, service, and public action take root. If Saturn is in the 6th or 10th house, the preference is clearly procedures. These individuals excel in disciplined roles, systems work, or environments where repetition and consistency are key. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn reinforces sacred responsibility. They may build slow but lasting systems, operating with a quiet, ritualistic precision. If Saturn is in the 10th, this procedural mastery becomes public. They're seen as anchors, organizers, or keepers of order, particularly in spiritual or humanitarian settings. If Moon is in the 4th or 6th house, the style is emotionally procedural, yet fluid. These natives need predictable rhythms to feel safe and emotionally balanced. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Moon transforms structure into a form of emotional regulation. They may adopt spiritual or daily rituals that help manage inner tides. If Moon is in the 10th, they may appear outwardly composed, following procedure not just for function, but to soothe collective uncertainty or hold emotional space for others. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the style may begin procedural, but leans toward adaptive systems. These individuals appreciate clear logic and mental maps, but also know how to tweak and optimize. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury organizes the invisible. They can translate spiritual or karmic concepts into functioning models. If Mercury is in the 10th, they may be seen as pragmatic planners, bringing structure to complexity, often in teaching, advising, or service-oriented roles. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the operational style is more options-based, but with a philosophical compass. These individuals prefer to follow inner wisdom rather than rigid plans. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter invites fluidity within moral structure. They may allow space for inspiration as long as it aligns with their dharmic path. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they often operate through expansive but value-driven frameworks, creating systems that leave room for spirit to move. If Rahu is in the 3rd or 10th house, the operational style may begin as options-based, but with compulsive experimentation. These natives test boundaries, challenge structure, and often need to reinvent methods. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Rahu agitates Saturn's steadiness. They may disrupt order in search of deeper meaning, but eventually must return to rhythm. If Rahu is in the 10th, this tension becomes public. They're seen as reformers or mystics who shift between chaos and discipline until balance is learned. Uttara Bhadrapada's operational strength lies in its devotional relationship to order. These natives often work behind the scenes, tending spiritual or karmic systems, following ancient rhythms that others overlook. Their challenge is learning when procedure becomes rigidity, and how to soften structure without losing integrity. When balanced, they become stewards of sacred systems, operating with care, wisdom, and quiet consistency, creating healing through method and purpose through patience. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, views, general or specific. Some individuals naturally perceive the world through a general lens, grasping broad themes, spiritual truths, or symbolic meaning. Others favor a specific lens, focusing on precision, tangible facts, and defined distinctions. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, endurance structure, and associated with Ahirbudhnya, the deep serpent, cosmic subconscious, leans strongly toward a general view. These natives are wired to see life as a continuum, interwoven with karma, time, and the unseen. They're not concerned with granular details unless those details serve a greater whole. Their perception is symbolic, abstract, and often spiritually layered. However, when placed in roles of duty, healing, or service, they can shift temporarily into specific analysis, especially when stabilizing something chaotic or incomplete. Planetary placements in the first, third, fifth, and 10th houses help shape whether they remain in the wide lens or step into fine focus. If Saturn is in the first or 10th house, the view remains general but grounded. These individuals absorb patterns over time, trusting repetition, cycles, and karmic timing. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn makes them slow to judge but wise in overview. They see what's emerging across long arcs. If Saturn is in the 10th, this becomes their professional strength. They are known for their patience, foresight, and ability to hold complexity without needing immediate resolution. If Jupiter is in the first or 9th house, the view is philosophically general. These individuals orient toward meaning, processing through belief systems, ethical frameworks, or symbolic logic. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter expands intuitive knowing. They perceive life through the lens of evolution, soul contracts, and spiritual learning. If Jupiter is in the 10th, this broader vision becomes visible. They are often seen as guides, counselors, or spiritual professionals who help others zoom out and realign. If Moon is in the 4th or 5th house, the view is emotionally general, but subtly receptive. These natives don't dissect every detail. They absorb mood, energy, and memory. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Moon softens the abstraction. They process through feeling states rather than intellectual clarity. If Moon is in the 10th, this emotional worldview becomes public. They're seen as emotionally wise figures, often sensing unspoken truths in group or leadership dynamics. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the native can shift into a specific view, especially when communication, organization, or articulation is required. These individuals know how to name and clarify what's otherwise implicit. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury serves as the interpreter of symbolic insight. They translate the intangible into words or systems. If Mercury is in the 10th, they may be seen as technical advisors, writers, or communicators of sacred logic. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the perception toggles between hyperspecificity and symbolic urgency. These individuals are often driven to understand, control, or decode life through analysis, but the deeper motivation is spiritual hunger. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Rahu disturbs Saturn's stillness. They may swing between scattered focus and visionary obsession. If Rahu is in the 10th, they may pursue mastery over complex systems or esoteric paths, seeking clarity through relentless exploration. Uttara Bhadrapada's natural sight is spiritual wide angle. They see the invisible architecture beneath form. Their challenge is not in zooming out, but in knowing when to come closer, when to refine, name, or intervene. When balanced, they become quiet oracles, holding space for mystery while offering gentle structure, perceiving not just what is, but what it means across time, soul, and consequence. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, work preferences, together, proximity, or solo. Some individuals thrive when working together, in close collaboration, shared goals, or interactive roles. Others prefer proximity, working independently but near others, open to support or idea exchange without full immersion. Still others require solo environments, where space, silence, and autonomy allow them to work in their own rhythm. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, solitude, devotion, spiritual depth, and co-ruled by Ahirbudhnya, serpent of the deep, symbol of silent wisdom, leans strongly toward a solo work preference. These natives often carry heavy internal processes, karmic awareness, or emotional saturation that requires stillness and space to metabolize. They function best when undisturbed, able to retreat, reflect, and act from alignment. However, when purpose demands or structure allows, they may shift into proximity, working near others, particularly in roles of healing, mentorship, or service. Their preferred work style is revealed by planetary placements in the 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses, where rhythm, routine, and visibility unfold. If Saturn is in the 6th or 10th house, the preference is clearly solo. These individuals thrive in roles where expectations are clear, time is respected, and emotional space is preserved. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn reinforces their need for solitude. They may serve tirelessly, but rarely seek fanfare. If Saturn is in the 10th, they are known as quiet professionals, those who lead through constancy and presence rather than charisma or collaboration. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, the preference may lean toward proximity, particularly when emotional resonance is available. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Moon softens Saturn's austerity. These individuals may work best around others who feel safe or aligned. If Moon is in the 10th, this emotional openness becomes visible. They are drawn to roles where connection and compassion guide their work, though they still require personal boundaries to sustain emotional balance. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, proximity becomes more viable, especially in intellectual or communicative settings. These individuals enjoy strategic dialogue, planning, or support roles, as long as their independence is respected. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury brings gentle curiosity. They may quietly analyze or guide others, often working beside people rather than within a group. If Mercury is in the 10th, they're seen as reflective communicators, those who guide, teach, or translate subtle truths without drawing attention to themselves. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, work becomes a sacred act, and while still solo, it is often infused with service to a larger cause. These individuals may appear monk-like, content in retreat, yet moved by purpose. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter channels wisdom into action. They prefer to work alone, so they can stay aligned with principle. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they may hold spiritual or educational leadership roles. Working solo but in service of many, known for their depth, ethics, and quiet authority. If Rahu is in the 3rd or 10th house, the preference may temporarily shift toward together, especially when ambition, visibility, or innovation is at play. These individuals may crave stimulation or recognition, pulling them into high-intensity collaboration. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Rahu adds restlessness. They may oscillate between solitude and group work, but ultimately need to ground in stillness. If Rahu is in the 10th, they may rise through social or unconventional paths, yet must learn that power comes from within, not performance. Uttara Bhadrapada's ideal work environment is quiet, meaningful, and deeply autonomous. They are not built for noise, competition, or chaotic collaboration. Their strength lies in the depth of what they carry, processing complexity, holding space, and delivering wisdom when ready. When balanced, they become silent stewards of sacred labor, able to work alone, not in isolation, but in reverent connection to what is timeless, necessary, and soul-aligned. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra experience association versus dissociation. Some individuals experience life through association, feeling deeply connected to people, emotions, environments, and memories. Others lean toward dissociation, observing from a distance, detaching to maintain clarity, control, or spiritual focus. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, detachment, karmic maturity, and co-ruled by Ahirbudhnya, the serpent of the deep, symbol of hidden consciousness and transcendence, naturally leans toward dissociation. These natives often experience life as if from beneath the surface, processing emotion and meaning inwardly, watching rather than participating fully. This style of experience gives them profound spiritual depth, but can also create a sense of loneliness, separation, or invisibility. Yet when grounded in purpose or moved by compassion, they can shift into association, opening their heart to others in ways that are subtle, healing, and deeply loyal. Planetary placements in the first, fourth, fifth, and 10th houses shape how emotionally engaged or withdrawn they become. If Saturn is in the first or fourth house, the experience is strongly dissociated. These individuals tend to observe rather than absorb, monitoring life through a lens of caution, responsibility, or karmic detachment. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn adds quiet endurance. They feel things deeply but process them slowly, often in solitude. If Saturn is in the 10th, this emotional restraint becomes visible. They are seen as composed, reliable, and emotionally controlled, often carrying unseen burdens. If Moon is in the 4th or 5th house, the experience tilts toward association, but with an undertow of introspection. These natives feel life intensely, but may not express it outwardly. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Moon adds sensitivity. They associate emotionally, but often retreat after the fact to reflect and regenerate. If Moon is in the 10th, this emotional depth is projected into leadership or service. They care deeply, but maintain a calm exterior, often guiding others with a compassionate but understated presence. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the experience becomes philosophically associated. They feel life through meaning, value, or faith. These individuals associate with ideals more than immediate emotion. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter gives a sense of unity. They may appear detached, but their heart is tethered to a higher truth. If Jupiter is in the 10th, this association becomes part of their public identity. They are seen as wise, ethical, and purpose-driven, engaging through principle rather than personal emotion. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, experience becomes observationally dissociated. These individuals prefer to understand emotion by analyzing it, processing through thought rather than immersion. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury adds an intellectual filter. They may seem present, but are often mentally translating experience into meaning or narrative. If Mercury is in the 10th, they may work in roles that require objectivity, guidance, or translation, engaging selectively and strategically. If Ketu is in the 1st or 5th house, the experience becomes intuitively dissociated. These individuals feel ancient, distant, or not fully here. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Ketu enhances spiritual detachment. They often feel like witnesses to their own lives, connected to subtle realms more than to the everyday. If Ketu is in the 10th, this spiritual dissociation becomes part of their vocation. They may take on roles that involve energetic work, hidden service, or quiet transformation. Uttara Bhadrapada's experiential style is rooted in depth, detachment, and devotion. They are not quick to react or reveal, but they hold space for what others cannot. Their growth lies in learning when to soften the distance, when to let life touch them directly without losing the clarity they carry. When balanced, they become sacred mirrors, anchored in stillness, able to feel without being overwhelmed, and to witness without turning away. Their gift is soulful presence, quiet, vast, and quietly transformative. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra approach, matching versus mismatching. Some individuals approach life through a matching lens, focusing on what aligns, resonates, or supports harmony. Others operate from a mismatching lens, scanning for what's off, broken, or in need of correction. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, judgment, long-term view, inner discernment, and co-ruled by Ahirbudhnya, serpent of the deep, symbolic of subtle disruption and hidden order, leans toward a mismatching approach. These natives are naturally attuned to the flaws in systems, emotional atmospheres, or karmic patterns, not out of criticism, but from a quiet compulsion to refine, heal, and restore integrity. Their perception is subtle and slow. They don't react quickly, but when something feels wrong, they sense it deeply and work patiently to bring it back into balance. However, when their emotional state is steady or their spiritual vision clear, they can shift into matching mode, especially in roles that require compassion, containment, or long-term restoration. Planetary placements in the 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses reveal how they move between these lenses. If Saturn is in the 6th or 10th house, the approach is clearly mismatching, but with structure and purpose. These individuals notice inefficiencies, misalignments, or breakdowns and feel responsible for correcting them. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn gives them the patience to repair slowly and thoroughly. They are karmic editors. If Saturn is in the 10th, this becomes visible in their professional role. They are trusted to fix what others ignore, often in spiritual, institutional, or humanitarian contexts. If Moon is in the 4th or 6th house, the mismatching is emotional. They feel when something is out of sync long before they name it. These individuals may not confront directly, but they withdraw or shift subtly when an environment doesn't feel right. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Moon adds psychic sensitivity. They sense the suffering or imbalance beneath the surface. If Moon is in the 10th, they carry this into public life, often guiding others quietly, bringing order through emotional intelligence. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the mismatching becomes more analytical and verbal. These individuals are attuned to contradiction, inconsistency, and cognitive dissonance. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury brings quiet precision. They speak when it matters, often pointing to truths others don't want to face. If Mercury is in the 10th, they are seen as intelligent critics, strategic reformers, or philosophical communicators who work behind the scenes or in systems-based roles. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the lens softens into matching, especially when grounded in faith or principle. These individuals seek moral or spiritual coherence. They don't ignore problems, but they look first for what can be uplifted or restored. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter sees the suffering but responds with compassion. They believe that brokenness can be redeemed. If Jupiter is in the 10th, this hopeful matching becomes part of their leadership. They guide through belief, patience, and ethical structure. If Rahu is in the 3rd or 10th house, the mismatching becomes amplified, urgent, obsessive, or boundary breaking. These individuals may focus intensely on what's wrong, especially when seeking transformation, power, or validation. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Rahu agitates Saturn. They may swing between trying to fix everything and needing to pull away entirely. If Rahu is in the 10th, this becomes public. They may rise as reformers or mystics, but must learn to refine rather than react. Uttara Bhadrapada's core approach is quiet refinement, seeing what's not working, not to destroy it, but to return it to its original truth. They don't seek conflict, but they don't overlook misalignment either. Their growth lies in balancing this sacred scrutiny with compassion, learning when to adjust and when to simply hold space. When aligned, they become karmic restorers, those who sense the cracks in the vessel and heal them from within with patience, vision, and unwavering depth. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, time experience, in time versus through time. Some individuals experience life in time, immersed in the moment, emotionally responsive, and intuitively present. Others live through time, tracking the past, forecasting the future, and acting with long-range awareness. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, Chronos, legacy, karmic sequencing, and co-ruled by Ahirbudhnya, serpent of the deep, symbolic of timeless knowledge, leans strongly toward a through-time experience. These natives often feel the weight of lifetimes in their bones. They measure progress slowly, think in cycles rather than moments, and act with a sense of inner timing that respects consequences. Their lives unfold like sacred architecture, deliberate, enduring, and deeply intentional. However, when stirred by compassion, spiritual insight, or emotional connection, they can momentarily shift into in time, responding with presence and immediacy, especially in moments that call for quiet care or meaningful service. Planetary placements in the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses influence how they experience and manage time, whether they follow the soul's clock or the world's pulse. If Saturn is in the 1st or 10th house, the experience is clearly through time. These individuals operate with restraint, responsibility, and an eye on karmic impact. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn deepens their internal tempo. They rarely act quickly, trusting that the right moment will arise when all elements align. If Saturn is in the 10th, this temporal gravity becomes visible. They are seen as methodical professionals or spiritual elders who act not for speed, but for permanence. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, time becomes more in time, especially on an emotional level. These individuals feel their way through life, responding to moods, atmospheres, and relational energy. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Moon introduces a flowing emotional intelligence. They may pause until something feels right, then respond with deep presence. If Moon is in the 10th, this responsiveness enters public life. They are attuned to collective mood and often lead through calm, timely intuition. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the experience blends both modes, thinking through time, but acting within time mental agility. These individuals plan ahead, but respond quickly when logic aligns. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury brings clarity to Saturn's stillness. They may be quiet strategists who read long arcs but deliver insight in the moment. If Mercury is in the 10th, they are seen as advisors or communicators, those who articulate long-range plans with precision and poise. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the through-time experience becomes philosophical and expansive. These natives track soul evolution, not just schedules. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter gives them faith in timing. They trust life's delays, seeing them as part of divine unfolding. If Jupiter is in the 10th, their leadership style is timeless. They act when meaning calls, offering wisdom rooted in long-term understanding rather than short-term gain. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the relationship to time may become distorted, increasing urgency, ambition, or pressure. These individuals may try to skip steps, leap ahead, or manipulate timing to force transformation. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Rahu agitates Saturn. They may feel caught between stillness and craving. If Rahu is in the 10th, this plays out publicly. They may rise fast, but must learn patience or risk burning out before their true purpose matures. Uttara Bhadrapada's time experience is deeply sacred and cyclical. These natives are not rushed. They move like tides, carrying wisdom that isn't bound to clocks. Their evolution lies in balancing presence with patience, knowing when to wait and when the soul says now. When aligned, they become masters of timing, walking between worlds, moving slowly but with meaning, and teaching others that true growth unfolds not in haste, but in depth, devotion, and right rhythm. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, primary interest motivation, people, activities, places, or things. Some individuals are primarily motivated by people, seeking connection, harmony, or emotional intimacy. Others are driven by activities, what they do, build, or serve. Some resonate deeply with places, environments that reflect inner stillness or spiritual energy. And others are motivated by things, structures, roles, or symbols that embody purpose or legacy. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, endurance, responsibility, and co-ruled by Ahirbudhnya, serpent of the deep, symbolizing spiritual containment and cosmic order, is most often motivated by places and activities, especially those that carry karmic weight, inner meaning, or sacred purpose. These natives are drawn to what endures, the sanctity of spiritual environments, the gravity of service, and the quiet power of long-term, soul-aligned work. While they may care about people and things, their true motivation comes from being in the right space, physically, emotionally, or energetically, and doing what needs to be done. Planetary placements in the 1st, 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses shape how this quiet devotion unfolds. If Saturn is in the 1st, 6th, or 10th house, the native is motivated primarily by activities, especially those involving duty, repair, or long-term responsibility. These individuals are builders of invisible infrastructure. They show up because the work matters. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Saturn adds sacred purpose. They are drawn to healing, containment, and karmic completion. If Saturn is in the 10th, they are seen as committed professionals, those who carry emotional or systemic burdens with grace, often in solitude. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, people become a more significant motivator, especially in emotional, relational, or nurturing roles. These individuals often feel compelled to care, soothe, or protect. In Uttara Bhadrapada, the moon adds compassion. They are moved by the suffering or needs of others, though they may not always show it outwardly. If Moon is in the 10th, this care becomes public. They are known for their emotional wisdom, often taking on roles that center collective well-being. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, places and activities combine into a philosophical calling. These individuals are moved by sacred spaces, spiritual teachings, or the impulse to guide others. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Jupiter gives vision. They are drawn to monasteries, retreats, temples, or symbolic places where soul work can unfold. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they may become teachers, mentors, or spiritual advisors, operating in roles that blend location with mission. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the interest shifts toward activities involving communication, thought, or structured guidance. These natives are motivated by tasks that require mental clarity and subtle articulation. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Mercury brings quiet precision. They may not speak much, but when they do, it's to bring clarity to confusion. If Mercury is in the 10th, they are seen as calm strategists, working behind the scenes to help systems run or wisdom be known. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the motivation can briefly shift toward cha things, status, role, or symbolic achievement. These individuals may pursue spiritual authority, power, or legacy as a way to anchor their sense of becoming. In Uttara Bhadrapada, Rahu disrupts stillness. They may chase visibility, only to realize that what they seek lies in presence, not prestige. If Rahu is in the 10th, they may rise quickly in public roles, but must realign with the soul's pace to avoid burnout or disillusionment. Uttara Bhadrapada's core motivation is containment with meaning, to be in the right place, doing the right work, for reasons that extend beyond ego. They are not driven by excitement, attention, or materialism. They are moved by inner necessity, karmic calling, and the still voice that says, this is the work of the soul. When aligned, they become sacred stewards of effort, quietly building, serving, and tending to the invisible structures that hold the world together.